Everybody.
Sorry, my bad.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's history lesson. I am your friendly neighborhood soda, joined as always by my co-host Ben Rayner and 50 Shades of History. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Doing well.
Go
ahead, finish your thought, Ben. Sorry.
Feeling a little weird, but going well. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm doing pretty well too. The name of the show is actually on the countdown. I'm hoping you guys know that. But the reason why we're talking history is because 50 had a really good idea for a list that I can't wait to dive into. You want to introduce him, my friend?
Yeah, as soon as I finish answering the question, how are you doing today? So, as for me, I'm still trying to catch my breath from something that we discussed right before we went to air, but I'm doing fine. It's been a better week than the last couple of weeks have been.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
As for the topic, something that sort of came into my head because I don't know if you noticed, but I love Doctor Who, and I do listen to a lot of Big Finish stuff at work.
Don't say!
Yeah, I listened to about 120 in the last couple of weeks episodes. And look, speak of the devil, everyone's favorite Doctor Who hater in the chat.
Hey guys.
Hey, Taco.
But yeah, I was just thinking this would make a really good idea.
By the way, happy anniversary, Taco. Enjoy your time away from the kid.
Yeah, got 5 years.
Yeah.
More than I ever would have lasted. Anyway, so my topic for today's list is top 5 historical events. For some reason last week I said moments. No idea why I did that. But top 5 historical events you would like to see made into either a movie, a TV show, or better yet, a Doctor Who episode. Now, I do have to stress this. Last week I said events, not people or persons from history, because I forgot that was a possibility. So if you guys have those on the list, they count. I was going in a completely different direction.
Okay, so I do have one, but he's on there it's more for the whole thing than just the person, but it's referred to by the person.
Me too. I have several of these that really the person is the more drawback for the event rather than.
Dude, I'm with everybody that said this. If you ever decide, you know what, I'll give it a shot, just watch Blink. Just watch Blink.
I'm not a big fan of the idea that if you never watched any episode, just watch Blink. It's a great episode. There really isn't that much Doctor in it.
No, but it is a good way to dip your toe into the water.
I guess. I mean, maybe that's just me. I just prefer start at the beginning.
Well, yeah. I mean, like normally mean like that, but I mean, you when it comes to recommending, you got to take into consideration the person you're recommending it to.
I think Rose does a really good job of.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's just me. Anyways, this is not a Doctor Who show. That is a different show on this channel that I appear in.
Mondays at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to start off soft then, my friend?
Yeah. So well, first of all, good philosophy, Taco. I do the exact same thing.
Me too.
Now, speaking of Doctor Who, Mindoro 5 is kind of technically the one that started this list or gave me the idea for this topic. It is the Big Finish episode about an event. Obviously, you don't have to take the exact same episode itself because there's bat-like aliens in it. So yeah, just keep just the history part of it out. But the event itself, I found it incredibly fascinating. Something I had no idea actually did happen, and I would love to see a movie made about that. Have either of you two, and Taco in the chat if you're still watching, have either of you heard of the 1938 World War of the Worlds event?
Of course, Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Well, for someone who isn't from the United States, this was a complete shock to me. I never heard of that.
You've never heard of this incident? Oh, it's,
No.
it's one of the most legendary moments in pop culture history.
It's not something that's widely talked about on this side of the world.
Which is fair. Which is fair.
Which is why it's my number 5. I just love that idea. Now, for people like me who have never heard of the event, basically, it was the debut of the radio production of War of the Worlds, the story that I normally know the author. I just forget.
Okay, so it's H.G. Wells, but the one he's referring to is Orson Welles' radio production of War of the Worlds, the famous Orson Welles War of the Worlds.
Yeah. Again, by the way, he actually met the Sixth Doctor in the TV show. Just wanted to point that out. But yeah, H.G. Wells, War of the Worlds, but the radio production with Orson Welles actually heard it on the radio and they thought it was real. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and then there was this whole mass hysteria, cats and dogs living together. That's another movie. But basically, yeah, I was more banking on the possibility that you've never heard of it. But the unlikely foreigner. That's me.
It's definitely something that whenever World of the Worlds is, well, actually, I'm not necessarily World of the Worlds. Whenever Orson Welles is generally brought up, that is usually one of the things that is mentioned because that, along with Citizen Kane, are like the two things he's most famous for.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. But what's actually fascinating about this is more so just the amount of power Orson Welles was able to use to hold the audience in the palm of his hand to think that this was actually happening. Like, that just speaks more to Orson Welles than anything else.
But yeah, thankfully, some of the other events on my list are stuff that you know nothing about. So I took the L on that.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Ben.
Mine isn't that old, and from 12 years ago, in the pop cultural line, in the Tonight Show debacle, the thing with Jay Leno and Conan O'Brien.
They did a TV movie in 1993 called The Late Shift.
When it happened after that.
No, they did it when the thing came out, when the thing happened.
Oh, okay.
And of course, Sora is now looking for the movie that he has.
No. This is for my pick.
Oh.
I nevertheless, you know what? I think they would make a fun Doctor Who episode. Get these two guys in a room together with the Doctor and have the Doctor work out their issues. Make the Doctor a therapist.
That would be an interesting take on it.
Yeah. As the last couple of weeks have taught me, you can actually make a Doctor Who story about anything, including the aforementioned War of the Worlds thing.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's my number 5. I'm sorry it's not so exciting.
Oh no, I didn't realize that you didn't know about the movie The Late Shift.
Don't apologize.
You said The Late Shift came out in 93, right?
It was not long after the thing happened. I know that. I probably just threw out 93, but it came out within a year after the incident.
So it came out like in 2011 or something?
That one. Oh, I think you're talking about the original one with Letterman and Leno.
No.
Oh, the Conan O'Brien one.
Yeah.
Never mind. I take that back. That actually would be really fun to watch. I'm sorry, Ben.
See, you actually made him apologize.
Yeah.
It's in my blood. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my number 5.
Okay, yeah.
See,
No,
it would be good.
now that I know you're simply talking about the Conan O'Brien one, yes, it would only serve right to do a sequel to The Late Shift. It really would.
The late shift, take 2.
Yeah, The Late Shift, even later.
The later shift. How about
Late
the,
shift, after dark.
Oh, the early shift. Yeah.
the early? The midday shift. Control shift.
The late
The
late
morning shift. The morning shift.
play on the riff of the Late Late Show.
Yeah.
All
Oh.
right. So my number 5 is the only one that has happened in the 21st century, and this is more a sporting event. But I want it done in the style of a miniseries like this was done on the Summit series in 1972, Canada, Russia. It's basically a several episode series that's done documentary style about the big series. But what I want done is one on the men's Canadians' journey to winning the gold medal in the 2002 Winter Olympics. Because going into it, they hadn't won a gold medal in the sport that they are supposedly the ones to be dominating in 50 years. There's a whole bunch of things in there. There's a whole bunch of the teams not being able to get gelling together at first, potential risk of them not making it, losing their first game of the actual round robin tournament. Then there's a whole controversy with the Czechs about them looking like they're trying to kick the shit out of the Canadians, and nobody's really calling them all their penalties. Plus, there is the nice story of the guy who took care of the ice in Salt Lake City, placing a loonie in center ice before the event even happened, and didn't tell anyone until both the Canadian men's and the Canadian women's team won gold medal in hockey. And then it was revealed, and that loonie is sitting in Toronto in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And one more thing. Do the game like they did in Miracle, because that gold medal final game between the U.S. men's and the Canadian men's, which only makes it more fitting, was the last hurrah of this generation's players, because you had guys like Steve Eisman, Chris Chelios, Brett Hall, Mike Richter, Mario Lemieux, Theron Fleury, like the great giants of the 80s and 90s were all on the ice that one time, and it's the last time it's happened.
Damn.
There is a lot that you could get out of that, and I would like to see it done as a miniseries.
Damn. I have one.
Ooh, yeah. That would actually that'd be kind of fun. Drunk history.
I have a question for you. I've always wanted to know. What is the American equivalent to a loonie?
Well, that's the thing. It's your $1 bill.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
So, I can't remember the year. Actually, it's in a Watch Mojo list. Just watched recently where they talked about it. But basically, it was just done to. It ended up saving, I think, like $3 million a year or $30 million a year.
Holy shit.
Well, yeah, because before, like, it's more so when you came to the transit and stuff like that. It's easy to count a coin, but when you got to count like all these $1 bills, and then eventually the $2 bills, which is where we got the toonie from.
Loonie and toonie. Nice.
Yeah, I know, right? No, there's no watch because it's Canada Day long weekend here. There were some videos on Watch Mojo. I'll actually send
nice.
You guys. I think it might be interesting. It's more on the stereotypes that are true.
So yeah, you guys are not afraid of the dark.
No, not those stereotypes. Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that. I remember, yeah, that actually would be fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, 50.
Weird. This is a weird request, but actually, I don't even think it would work. But do you want to actually bring Taco here? Maybe?
He's on vacation, dude.
And that's why I said I don't think it would work. But would make this episode a whole lot interesting and a whole lot louder. But last week, my number 4, speaking of Taco, last week I brought this up in our Posters Roundup on Adventure in Time and Space, the basic biopic on William Hartnell and the sort of fictionalized documentary about the creation of Doctor Who. Of course, sort of has it.
It hasn't left since last week. It hasn't left the spot.
Yeah, that's very you. But I would love to see
Yeah, see, that's why it would be awkward. Get on a Greyhound that has Wi-Fi, Taco. No, I'm kidding. They do exist.
But here's where I'm going with this, if I'm allowed to speak finally. I would love to see something like that. Of course. Am I going to get to my number 4 today?
I was giving you the room.
Jeez. I want something like that made on Star Wars, okay? That's where I was going with this.
Oh,
The lead, maybe even do a biopic on George Lucas, or just the lead up to the making of the first Star Wars movie, which was later renamed A New Hope. That's where I was going with this, okay?
that's really, really good. And I know they kind of did a weird version of that in Legends of Tomorrow, but I think the real story is very fascinating.
But Legends was years before. That was him
That was in
deciding
the 60s, yeah.
to direct. That was years before Star Wars. So
Yeah.
I want to see like the making of Star Wars and like how it's common knowledge at this point, but everything was working against him, from the actors to the production to the studio. No one thought this thing would work.
Yeah, faster, more
And
intense.
it's working, and it's one of the biggest franchises in the world right now.
Honestly, that is one of those movies that does warrant a big, like they're doing it right now with The Godfather. Why not do it with with Star Wars?
The other iconic 70s franchise.
Yeah, I literally just said that, Taco, like The Offer, but Star Wars. Yeah, I think you could. Well, would you do it as a movie or would you do it as a miniseries? I think a miniseries you could flesh it out.
Well, I mean, because I mentioned this thing, I would like to see it in this style of storytelling. But a miniseries could work, I suppose. But I just have an adventure in time and space so ingrained in my head that I can't foresee it as anything other than
Oh, that's fair.
a movie. But that's just me.
Yeah, and they would have to film it in London for the authenticity. Was it Pinewood or was it Elstree? One of the two.
Pinewood.
Miniseries. Josh Gad is George Lucas. I like it.
Josh Lucas.
No, even better. Bobby Moynihan, the guy who does George Lucas on SNL.
No, I mean, who is that guy who is on,
Oh, the deepfake guy?
who?
Deepfake?
Yeah, who is on SNL a few
I
times.
can't remember
Yeah,
everyone.
no, but here's the problem with that, Ben. You have to be playing young George Lucas.
Well,
Not
yeah,
sure.
that's true. Yeah, okay.
Which is why, going back to Taco's thing, Josh Gad does make sense. He's got the right body type, face type.
Yeah, for
Here.
George Lucas now.
You know, I have somebody. Jonah Hill.
Well, I have somebody who's unfortunately passed away a long time ago. Anton Yelchin would have been a good choice for young George
Ooh.
Lucas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Ben.
Okay. I know my number 4 is already a movie, but I want to see it as a Doctor Who episode.
Oh,
Sully, the guy who landed the plane in New York. The movie came out and Tom Hanks played him.
yeah, no, I know the movie. I'm just trying to figure out how it would fit into Doctor Who.
They have Doctor Who be a passenger on the plane and have him help out with the landing.
That's true.
I mean, so do you even need to ask? Aliens hijacked the plane. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's just harder to do with an established event like that when everybody knows what's happened. That's why I was like, how do you do that?
I think it could be a fun episode.
And I mean,
How come
not every villain in a Doctor Who story has to be an alien.
True.
I just want to see the Doctor
Luke,
where
George Lucas, Josh, Daniel Radcliffe, just give him a beer.
Yeah. Let's take Daniel Radcliffe and just make him the biopic guy.
Hell, I can't wait for the Weird Al story.
Me too.
he looks great.
Oh yeah, for sure. And did you know that Weird Al actually gave him one of his own personal accordions after filming?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he was on set. the whole-
I love it now. But long time ago in the galaxy far.
For the most part, some of them I'd say are better. Like some of his originals are pretty damn good. Everything
Yeah.
You Know Is Wrong, Frank's 2000-inch TV, stuff like that. And if you really want to go absurd, Albuquerque, but that's like 13 minutes and has no point other than he hates sauerkraut. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not the only one who hates sauerkraut. Good to know. Good to know. Alright, so now what is your number 4?
Okay, so my number 4. Now this is an American incident. Now Ben, this is the only American incident. Do you know what the worst maritime disaster in United States history is?
This is American, not the Canada, nor the Canadian, nor more American history. That's the only American on the channel. So,
But
no, I
to
don't.
answer my question, do you know what the worst maritime disaster in United States history is?
No.
Okay, so this is what I would like to make my number 4, and this would have to be a movie, and it would have to be like in the vein of Poseidon and Titanic. But it is a movie based on the Sultana, which was a commercial-wide steamboat which exploded and sank on the Mississippi River on April 27th, 1865, killing at least 1,547 people in what remains the worst maritime disaster in United States history. Constructed of wood in 1863, Sultana was intended for the lower Mississippi trade. However, it was retrofitted as a passenger ship to carry troops at the end of the American Civil War. Although designed with a capacity of only 376 passengers, she was carrying more than 2,500 when 3 of the 4 boilers exploded and caused it to sink near Memphis, Tennessee. The disaster was overshadowed in the press by events surrounding the end of the Civil War because it happened within a week of the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. That's why nobody knows about it.
Oh, wow.
More lives were lost on that than the Titanic, and nobody knows about it.
That would make a great movie.
There's rumors that there was collusion between the guy who was in charge of saying who goes on a what boat and the guy in the boat, because you were paid a certain amount of money per head per passenger you took on. This is a lot of stuff. There's pictures of the boat with like all the passengers on one side, and you can see the boat leaning.
To the
That
other
would be cool.
Yeah,
That would be cool.
Yeah, no, it's one of those stories that deserves to be told, and yet nobody knows about it. It's almost, I'm not, forgive me for comparing the two, but it's basically similar to the Tulsa riots. Nobody knew about it until boom, they put it in the beginning of Watchmen, and all of a sudden that's all everyone was talking about for a while. I think the Sultana could have that effect because it is a fascinating story. I've watched documentaries on this, and I was like, how did these guys not go to jail?
You would be surprised what Americans get away with sometimes.
yeah, that's sad reality. But
although the Indianapolis would be fun because of the whole shark stuff.
But I was going to ask this during my number 5. The event that you just described, is that something that is widely taught in schools?
No. The only reason I came about it was I was just randomly looking because I'm fascinated by shipwrecks. And I came across it. There's an episode. There's a show.
I was gonna make a really nasty joke about something that reportedly ended yesterday, but I'm going to keep it to myself.
Okay, you can tell me off screen.
Okay.
No, I'm fascinated by that stuff, and there is a Discovery Channel show that I found that I was only able to get 3 episodes on, and one of them was on the Sultana trying to find the remains of the ship, which they did.
Oh, wow.
And that's what piqued my interest, and I went in and just read up a little bit on it, and I started watching documentaries and stuff like that. So that's how I came about it. It is not something they teach in schools.
But bringing back to my number 5 is that something they teach in schools? The World of the Worlds one?
That one I'd have to refer to Ben. Did you hear about that in school?
No, I heard that about. I really heard about that on a TV show. I think.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's how I learned about it as well. Was through media.
Yeah.
Right. So something that doesn't
It's different.
what?
Now for something completely different, off from the disaster of my pick.
Yeah, great, great Monty Python reference. Now for something that isn't necessarily taught in schools, but is something that I learned in school. And like I said earlier, it's one of those things that it's really the person that should get the credit,
Yeah.
not the event itself. But it's the story of Victor Kahalani. And since you don't know who he is, he's a soldier who fought in the Yom Kippur War. Still to this day, the worst. And yeah,
In the world.
but it's not. That's not what I'm asking. It's well known. Is it something that's like taught in schools? That was my
It should
question.
be. It should be actually, if I think about
Yeah,
it.
the effects of media on.
Yeah.
For saying this, the dumb populace.
Yeah.
And this isn't just exclusive to Americans, obviously. I'm just saying that the effect of media can affect the population on any country, not just a population obsessed with sci-fi and stories the way that Americans do. That's just my thing. Anyways, so Avigdor Kahalani fought in the Yom Kippur War, still to this day, the worst and most bloody war in Israel's history. And particularly the event that I have in mind is I'm not even going to try to translate the name of the place because it's going to sound horrible, but the Baha Valley, where it was really right around the beginning of the Yom Kippur War. The whole how it started is just an embarrassment to the country. The whole they attacked us on Yom Kippur because we were. For those of you who don't know, Yom Kippur is a 2-day long fast, and there was like warning signs for years, like flashing red lights, metaphorically speaking, that there was going to be an attack specifically on that day when everyone's fasting and we're all hungry and weak and not on the best game. And Prime Minister at the time didn't think it was going to happen. That's a whole separate conversation. But on the very start of the day, there were barely any soldiers on duty because of the fast. And Avigdor Kahalani basically was on his own defending against dozens of Syrian tanks coming from across the border. And what he did was he managed to, because he knew that they were listening to the comms, he was able to use the comms, speaking different voices to convince the enemy that the army that they're facing is actually a lot bigger than he was, because it was him on his own speaking 100 different voices, trying to convince them that there are other tanks, there are other soldiers in the area, which disorientated the attacking enemy. That in and of itself, like if you make it into a movie, that's then the title of the movie right there. One man army. I mean, there, I just did your job for you.
There you go. There's your title. It does wish that they made more movies about historical things in non-American countries.
Yeah.
That would be fascinating.
Get on that.
Yeah, Ben, the American.
The main problem,
America.
yeah. The main problem with it, though, is I think if they were to make a movie about that event, they might make it a little too one-sided. And me personally being on the side that won the war, just saying, I would have much preferred to see both sides of the conflict.
Yeah, we don't want to see another Argo situation on our hands.
Yeah.
So the movie Argo is complete bullshit.
Oh.
No, it's true. It's
No, I believe you. I still like the movie.
everything that is depicted in that movie. The Canadians are the ones that did it. The Americans didn't have as much as they said they did.
Oh.
Yeah, but it was made by Americans.
Look it up. It's all.
No, I believe you, man. I believe you.
All right, then. Next.
Okay. I don't know if they actually ever made a movie about this, but I want fun. This sounds weird. You know what? Making a Doctor Who episode.
Coming back and just taking a drink.
Oh. I want to, Jamel, I think he would like this, where I'm headed. I want a fun Doctor Who episode about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
Ooh.
Make John Wilkes Booth a Zygon, and make Doctor Who be like the detective of it, and have him figure everything out, and have him, it would be the 10th Doctor with Martha. No, Nana.
Yeah,
Well,
all you know what? That's all good stuff. Give it to me. Because I'm a sucker for the story behind the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, and then to see it in one of my all-time favorite shows, not my all-time favorite show, but one of them, would be pretty cool.
What do you think of that, 50? Do you like it?
well, Benjamin, funny you should ask this because technically speaking, they've already done it. A story called Assassin in the Limelight with the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn Smythe on Big Finish.
And of course, you already had that queued up.
Yeah.
No, I really had to
Hey,
scramble.
Elizabeth Anthony's in it. Cool.
Who?
Dracula, Dead and Loving.
Oh.
She's Lucy.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so long story short, this is a sort of spiritual sequel to something that they've already done. Something that could also be a good honorable mention for me. Dang it! Why am I blinking on stuff right now? But there we go. Have either of you guys heard of the Burke and Hare murders?
No.
You never heard? Okay, that's another thing that could be a good thing to look up. But basically, the villain from that, they also did a Doctor Who story about that. But the villain from that story comes back as a sort of time traveling meddler, essentially, who stole a TARDIS and is trying to prevent the assassination of Lincoln.
Oh, wow.
You know, some wibbly wobbly stuff happened there, and John Wilkes. What?
I was gonna say you could still do it on film, just because, if I'm not mistaken, haven't they taken Big Finish stories and reworked them for other Doctors?
I mean, Doctor Who doesn't really have much of a canon, so they could do that. I mean, officially, according to Big Finish, William Shakespeare died before the William Shakespeare episode of Doctor Who happened. If you really want to get into the canon. If you really want to get into canon, Winston Churchill met every single Doctor at different points of their life. If you really want to put canon into things, Clara Oswald is the inspiration for the Mona Lisa. Like, there's so many different things you can do with that.
What?
Yeah, I'm not kidding. There's like a rabbit hole involving the Mona Lisa. There's like 20 Mona Lisas in Doctor Who. Anyways, so
Well,
that's
I want to send me down that rabbit hole, 50. I want to not now, but later. I'm curious about that.
Okay, so basically, that story could happen as it is in Big Finish, but they could also take Ben's idea and do a John Wilkes Booth Zygon shooting Lincoln type thing.
I don't think that would be really fun to see. I don't. Yeah.
And did you notice Taco left the show?
Probably got on the bus.
Yeah.
All right, Benny boy.
That was my number 3. That's your number 3.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so mine is actually little known in Canada. This is a Canadian event that takes place during World War II. It is known as the Terrace Mutiny. The Terrace Mutiny was a revolt by Canadian Army soldiers based in Terrace, British Columbia, Canada, where I live, during the Second World War. The mutiny, which began on November 24th, 1944, and ended on November 29th, 1944, was the most serious breach of discipline in Canadian military history. The mutiny was triggered by the rumor that conscript soldiers based on the home front would be deployed overseas. So basically, they were told originally that you're just going to stay here, make sure everything's protected, all that stuff. And then there was a rumor coming out that no, we might actually send you overseas, which is what some of these people that sign up for. So they hold down here in Terrace and they mutiny for 5 days, and the government actually covered it up. Yeah, the government and military were fearful that the mutiny would spread and impair the war effort. The authorities pressured censors to apply federal press censorship regulations more strictly. These effects were largely successful. The mutiny did not come to be well known among the general public, and the event came to be an obscure event in Canadian history. All my hometown.
Yeah.
And that I would like to see. I would like to see it done as a CBC miniseries. So CBC is our local thing. The Canadian Broadcasting Company is our version of the BBC. I would like it to see. I think that's the only place that this just makes sense to tell will be as a CBC miniseries.
Would you make it a miniseries or not like a docu-series?
Yeah, docuseries actually would be pretty fun too. Either or. It's just something that I wish I just feel like should be out there more. Yeah. I guarantee you, there are probably not that many people who live in Terrace that even know about it.
I would like to know more about it.
And some of the local people who are involved with like the Historical Society of Terrace actually released a book on Terrace during World War II that on the mutiny. That's actually pretty fascinating.
Wow.
And to look back at those pictures from 70 years ago, and it's just like, oh shit, I played ball there, just stuff like that. It's just like to see what my hometown looked like 70 years ago is pretty cool.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a big blurb on Wikipedia, but I just would like to see it talked about more.
Because it's your hometown.
Yes. It is, but also to show that things happen in Canada. This is more to show the people in the big cities
Things happen in Canada.
outside of Toronto and Vancouver. Because that's the one thing that was pissing me off about that Watch Mojo list that I was showing the other day. Some of the things on there, I'm like, okay, not everybody does them. There's more than just outside of Toronto. Anyway.
Yeah.
So Toronto is basically the United States of Canada.
Toronto is our New York.
Yeah, where everything just revolves around that, and
pretty much.
Is important. It's
the
basically
worst is when the news are like on global and stuff from Vancouver saying if they're showing things of people in Vancouver driving and not being able to drive in like this much snow. It's like, oh, the people in BC are having a hard time. And I'm sitting there going, why don't you show us up north? We could do this in our sleep.
So it's basically like the Tel Aviv and Jerusalem of Canada.
Basically, it's annoying.
No one's even aware that there's anything else beyond
north point, yeah,
or south. Just saying.
That's true. But anyways, that is my number 3.
And then they're salty on you about that subject.
A little bit. Anywho,
Mr. I live in LA. Okay.
Mr. Center of the world. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Fuck you guys. Fuck you.
You dumb Americans think you're so great.
Actually, pretty good American. All right. Speaking of which, what's your number 2?
My number 2. Once again, I take you to the Middle East, but I also take you several thousand years into the past. And once again, a story where the person is really the main central. I try to combine too many different words into the same sentence, but the main focal point of the event, and it's basically just the whole King Cyrus thing, and that is something I did actually learn in school. But basically, I'll just set the historical background. The Kingdom of Israel at the time. This is around 500 BC-ish. Kingdom of Israel just completely conquered and fell to the Kingdom of Babylon. The king of the Babylonians, Nebuchadnezzar, and yes, that's his name.
Say it again?
Nebuchadnezzar.
Gesundheit. No, I'm kidding.
Fuck you. So Nebuchadnezzar decided to destroy the first Jewish temple and banish the Jewish people and scatter them all throughout the kingdom of Babylon. Now, during intervening years, kingdom of Babylon also fell to the kingdom of Persia, and basically the Persian people absorbed all the Babylonian territories, including what was once at one point the kingdom of Israel, which the King Cyrus was much more kind to the Jewish people and actually allowed them to return to their home country and rebuild the second temple. Just a whole, probably be a much longer mini series, but centered around all of that from the days of the fall of the kingdom of Israel under the rule of King Solomon, through Nebuchadnezzar onwards to the Persian era, coming back to Israel, and then obviously then the Greeks came, and you could actually make a whole. The Hellenistics showed up, and you can actually make a whole. You can make several seasons of a story just talking about that era of the kingdom of Israel, from like the reign of King Saul, or as I call him, Shaul, which is that's his name here. King Saul, King David, King Solomon, through the destruction of the first temple and Cyrus, through the Hellenistics and the Greek Empire, the Hasmonean period, which is the origin of Hanukkah, by the way, in case you didn't know, all the way up to the Roman occupation, which then obviously the birth of Jesus, the destruction of the second temple, which, according to some people, led to the destruction of Pompeii. Like, you can make an entire multiple season show just that era of the kingdom of Israel from 1000 BC till all the way up to 70 AD.
You could easily do that as similar to the show Vikings or something like that, because from basically what you just described, there's a lot there to do, like an 8-episode season, a series with 8-episode seasons or something like that, but on different points in time throughout that.
I would watch that.
Me too.
That whole period is 1,000 years, but it's so incredibly dense, and it's weird how many different kingdoms and how much the regime changed during that time.
But yeah, that's where the whole make like one season, one point in time during that 1,000 years. I think you can easily work. I would love to see that.
And again, it's something that we all know because we study it in school. The rest of the world don't really know much about that. Most of the world is just interested in what happened in the 1,000 years after that.
Yeah. All right, Ben. You're numero dos.
Well, I don't know if this has already been a movie or whatnot, but I would want like a really gritty, hardcore wrestling miniseries on the shootout at the Old King Corral.
You could. Well, of course, anytime there's a movie about Wyatt Earp, it's in there. That's basically just what it is.
Right, but I want it focused on that.
Yeah, so I was gonna say there is Gunfight at the OK Corral, but that came out in the 1950s. And nowadays, they actually know more about that you could present a more accurate presentation. I actually, because of how much I love the movie Tombstone, I would watch that.
Yeah, me too. The same reason.
And 50, I'm assuming you're familiar with the Gunfight at the OK Corral?
I'm okay.
As in you don't know and you don't want to know?
Well, if you would just give me a few more seconds, I was going to say that was actually another
Of
doctor.
course. The Gunfighter, right? The Gunfighters?
Yeah, the Gunfighter, the one immediately after the Celestial Toymaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they pretty much got everyone in the story. Doc Holliday's there, Wyatt Earp, Johnny Ringo, the OK Corral. It's a 6-part story, I think.
How would you go about doing yours, Ben? Would it be like miniseries, movie?
I hit a article miniseries.
Yeah, HBO all the way. HBO is the only one that can do it justice.
Hello.
I wouldn't cast as Wyatt Earp. Timothy Olyphant.
Is Wyatt Earp. I would go him with Doc Holliday.
Not Holiday, I mean, yeah.
And you know who I would
Ryan,
pick Wyatt Earp just for shits and giggles? Wyatt
Ryan Russell.
Russell. Wyatt Russell.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Oh god, that's a good movie.
Oh,
You ever see the
it might.
What?
You ever seen the movie Tombstone?
It's one I want to watch, but no, haven't already.
Yeah, okay, I'd recommend it. It's got a great cast in that.
But
It's either in my top 10 or top 15. I love that movie.
It's in my top 10 westerns for sure. It's probably top 5.
But can I just say something funny about the thing that I just brought up?
Always.
Yeah.
So at the end of the Celestial Toymaker, they steal candy from one of the Celestial Toymaker's henchmen, and the Doctor tries eating one, and just starts screaming in pain. Then the episode ends with a close-up shot of the candy dropped on the floor, alluding to the possibility that maybe the Doctor was poisoned. The reality is revealed later in the next episode. He just broke one of his teeth because it was really hard candy.
And let me guess, he went to go see none other than Doc Holliday.
Yep, he needed a dentist, and the doctor he went to was Doc Holliday. Sorry about that. Mute me for a second.
He did it himself. That's one of those moments in history, and I would like to see a retelling as well. I know that's the basis of the first Young Guns, but I would like to see a revised retelling of the Lincoln County War.
I still need to see those Young Guns movies.
Really?
You can't find them anywhere.
The website, dude.
No, it's not there. I looked.
You're kidding. Wow, that's hooray for physical media.
Oh. No, it's not on physical media. It's not on Blu-ray. What?
I have them on DVD 1 and 2.
Yeah, but not on Blu-ray.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't need them on Blu-ray.
No.
But it's a fun movie. The second one is they kind of introduce the notion that maybe Billy the Kid had survived, but they don't really do it historically accurate. That's actually probably my favorite Wild West story is or myth I should say, is that Billy the Kid survived the gunfight and lived and died in Texas in 1950.
Who do you think the better doctor is? Doc Holliday or Doc Brown?
I'm gonna go Brown because at least his stuff that he's a doctor of, he does throughout the movies. We never see Doc Holliday as a dentist, which yes, that is how he got his name.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
I'm ready to start my next pick, but this is one I need 50 on for because this is the Doctor Who pick.
So what to do with you, my man?
Oh well, it's Canada. I can never say that without getting tongue-tied. Canada Day long weekend up here. So people are out celebrating, camping on stuff. Beautiful, beautiful day. Nice long weekend. Yeah, it's been fun. What about you? Any plans to go 4th of July?
I don't think so. I mean, there's barbecue stuff. You know how it is.
Oh, barbecue. I love me some barbecue.
Yeah, what's your favorite barbecue dish?
I'm pretty simple. Ribs, steak. Although if I'm going to cook my steak, I'd rather do it over an open flame in a big pit. But just generally that type of stuff. Steak grilled on an open flame is pretty damn good.
What kind of side? Mashed potatoes or corn?
I'm a potato salad guy when I'm doing that type of stuff. Like I love my potato salad. That's generally what it is. Whenever me and my family get together and we do those barbecues, it's like your piece of meat, you got your potato salad, and sometimes with a salad to go with it, keep it nice and light. I'm
gonna go down because silly question, but never mind.
Dude, look where we are. Silliness prevails.
I'm gonna go down what came first, Independence Day for America or Canada Day for Canada?
It's
But then
almost 100 years.
I realized that's what I said in
Yeah.
the second question.
With us, it's 1867.
Yeah, that's almost.
Almost 100 years, yeah. Because it's
Yeah.
what, 1776?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I've always found American history more fascinating. Like, don't get me wrong, there's some interesting stuff in Canada. It's just the Americans have propensity to fuck shit up like no one else.
Sadly, I have to agree with that.
Yeah.
Considering where we are today.
Pretty much.
Sorry about that.
Got to call into work?
Yeah, work problems. Anyways, what I was going for is, he goes to the Doc Holiday to get a dental appointment, and the name of the episode itself is Holiday for the Doctor.
What?
As in Doc.
Oh, I get it. Take me a second.
If the freaking phone call hadn't interrupted me, maybe you would have gotten the phone.
Timing. Gotta love timing.
Timing!
Gotta hate timing. Anyways, what were you talking about while I was indisposed?
Oh, we just were talking about just random stuff, how the weekend's going, about because over here for both Canadians and Americans it's a long weekend, although ours was yesterday, theirs is on Monday. We were just talking about that and like barbecues and stuff like that. We were just talking about that stuff.
What was the occasion?
It's Canada Day yesterday, July 1st. So that's the day we became a federation, so 1867, and then of course 4th of July.
Oh, but that's next week.
No, that's coming
Yeah,
up.
Monday.
We just did ours yesterday. That's why I was off yesterday, which was so nice.
Okay, cool.
All right, Ben.
No, I just read it. Your turn.
Okay.
Yeah,
So this is the Doctor Who one. Okay, have either of you ever heard of the Dyatlov Pass incident?
the what?
Can't say I have.
So I will preface this with saying about within the last 20 years, they did make a really, really low-grade movie about this incident, but so I'm not counting that. Okay, the Dyatlov Pass incident was an event in which 9 Soviet trekkers died in the northern Ural Mountains between the 1st and 2nd of February 1959 in uncertain circumstances. The experienced trekking group from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, led by Igor Dyatlov, had established a camp on the eastern slopes of somewhere in Russia. I'm not pronouncing that. Overnight, something caused them to cut their way out of their tent and flee the campsite while inadequately dressed for the heavy snowfall and sub-zero temperatures. After the group's bodies were discovered, an investigation by Soviet authorities determined that 6 of them had died from hypothermia, while the other 3 had been killed by physical trauma. 1 victim had a major skull damage, 2 had severe chest trauma, and another had a small crack in his skull. 4 of the bodies were found lying in running water in a creek, and 3 of these 4 had damaged soft tissue around the head and face. 2 of the bodies were missing eyes, 1 had a missing tongue, and 1 had missing eyebrows. The investigation concluded that a compelling natural force had caused the deaths. But you can easily fix it, so it's aliens that caused it.
Yeah, and judging by the level of gore it would require, it's probably going to be a big finish, because I don't think you can put that on a Doctor Who TV episode.
You can work your way around it. You could easily work your way around it.
Well, okay.
And you can make it as a Doctor Who horror story.
I mean, Doctor Who has been horror for a very long time.
Right, but it could be one of those episodes that is predominantly more in the horror genre.
It has these episodes. This episode is just a comedy. This episode's just horror. This episode's just political thriller. This episode's it's a very multi-genre show. So yeah, it could work.
Yeah.
I have.
As I said, they even tried to reopen an investigation in 2015 back on this, and of course, nothing. Like, there's so many conspiracy theories. Yeah, it's there was a Discovery Channel documentary special called Russian Yeti, The Killer Lives, purported to examine the incident in relation to the myth of the Yeti. So it's just like one of those, nobody knows, you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. Maybe you could actually have the Yeti from
Yeah.
classic Doctor Who.
Yeah, you could. Just unfortunately, it would have to be a fixed point in time where none of these people make it.
I have a I have a question. What Doctor, what companion you doing
So
this
I
with?
wasn't originally going to do that. I was going to say I would just like to see it in the future, but because you did it earlier, it's got to be 10.
Why?
As much as Matt Smith is my doctor, 10 has that way of handling situations like this that make it more appealing. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, I think a lot of the stories work mostly because of 10.
Well, I was gonna suggest Troughton. Because
See,
I
but
mean,
that's the thing. I'm only going off of my experience. I've never seen a Troughton episode.
no, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. The Yeti is literally second Doctor villain. Which
That's
is why
fair.
they brought up the Yeti connection.
That's okay. That's fair.
Plus, Dixon has some connections to Russia in some episodes.
No, okay, no, that's actually a good point. If you were able to go back and do it as a big finish, bring on Troughton. But if I were to do it as an episode, I would like to see 10.
And it would actually would be Troughton because one of his sons, Michael Troughton, I believe, does his voice.
I'm not surprised. Now for the
Right.
companion, Martha, just because of the medical stuff.
Makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's for something like that to have a medical person there. So it'd be
You
like,
know what? You know what? Since you're bringing up 10, Martha didn't really have that whole "it's a fixed point, we can't save those people" type story on the TV
Yeah.
show.
this could be it.
Rose had it.
Yeah.
Donna had it.
Yeah.
From the David Tennant era, I'm speaking.
Yeah.
Martha didn't.
Yeah, and then of course, and we keep going. Like obviously, Amy had it with Vincent Van Gogh and stuff like that.
Asian mean guys are with Matt Smith's time as a doctor, more personal stories about the doctor rather than Tennant, where it seems more globally active, if that makes sense.
No, you're not wrong. But that the Matt Smith years definitely do go more into his personal backstory and well, more into who the doctor is. I guess.
Time when finally the show had the budget to go a more worldwide thing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think if during the Tennant era that was the case, you can bet your ass they would have done that, something like
Yeah.
that.
All right.
All right. So that was my number 2. So now it is honorable mention time.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
should me start?
Mhm.
Okay, so 2 of these are already Doctor Who Big Finish stories, but I would definitely like to see them. The Burke and Her murders that I mentioned earlier. What was the other one? I was thinking about it before the sticking phone call. Damn it, really threw me off. Well, let's just stick with the Burke and Her murders. Right now I'm just thinking about all the. I've got work on my brain too much right now, so let's
Yeesh.
try to wrap this
Never
up.
good. You got to work through it there, but 50. I'm kidding. Ben, got any honorable mentions?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, I have one, but this one I put it down here because this one I want to see as a documentary more than anything else. Again, it's another Canadian thing, as well as it's another Canadian thing. But this one is the story of the Mackie Bennett. Now, the Mackie Bennett was the ship that went and recovered bodies from the Titanic.
Oh, wow.
So they went out. They went out and they embalmed. Like first class people got given the coffins and stuff like that. Second class people were given sacks with their name or if they could have or whatever. And then third class were off the edge because they were running out of room on the ship. But basically, they went back several times and kept recovering bodies. And they're the reason why why some people were finally able to go and identify their bodies, and why the Halifax graveyard of Titanic survivors is so big is because of people like this. So we know everything there is to know about the sinking. Now I want to see this. Now I want to see people educated on the aftermath and the rescue of the bodies and stuff like that. It's a great.
You know what? I think that would be, for me personally, that would be a hard watch.
It would be, but I think it would be worth watching. I think it's another part of that story that people don't know.
I think I watched a Discovery Channel documentary about that years ago.
I have a book that I lent to a friend that I gotta get back. God damn it! But read up into it. It's interesting.
But yeah, I did check up. I remember what was my second one, the R101. That's the other one I was my honorable mention. Do you not know what the R101 is?
No.
It was the sort of the first big British airship, a Zeppelin, the first of its kind, biggest of its kind, that was supposed to make its first maiden voyage from Britain to France, I think, and through technical difficulties, it crashed halfway through the journey. And then that was the event that introduced the Eight Doctors' signature companion, Charlie Pollard. He's a woman that was supposed to die on that crush, and the Doctor just saved her from. And they kept traveling for years after that.
That actually does sound fascinating. I want to give, before we go on, I do want to give you a little bit of numbers on this Mackay Bennett. After a 7-day recovery operation, the ship had recovered 306 of the 328 bodies found from among the 1,500 who perished aboard the Titanic, buried 116 at sea, of which only 56 were identified. Set sail for home with 190 bodies on board, almost twice as many as there were coffins available.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, now on to something completely different. 50, your number one.
I think I mentioned this several times on this show on various different topics, but it's and I suddenly remembered my other honorable mention, the Battle of Beersheba, my hometown, one of the most significant wars in World War I. It was the first major Allied victory against the Ottoman Empire, the liberation of this whole region, and was an involvement of French and British soldiers with Australian, New Zealandic soldiers, which is why there's literally 2 Australia national parks in my city. And a couple of years ago, when I moved into this apartment, we celebrated 100 years for that battle. That was my honorable mention. My actual number one, Israel's War of Independence, which it sucks that Taco left earlier, because I actually had to. We talked about this on our Facebook Messenger stuff. There's so much stuff he did not know about that event. The whole the UN voting the foundation of 2 separate states in the land of Palestine, one for the Palestinians, one for the Israeli people who just survived the Holocaust, and the Palestinians weren't having any of it. Sorry, the Arabs that lived in the area weren't having it, and they started attacking. And on the day of of Israel's independence, that was when the newly formed country, barely a day old, retaliated against 6 countries at once. A tiny, small country, barely a day into its existence, having to fight 6 or 7 different Arab countries, all in one take, and clearly they won. So just the whole mouse in front of a lion take is something that I think is very, very fascinating. Again, it could just be, if it would ever be made, would just be a big one-sided thing. So it had to be handled very delicately, especially in today's modern political climate.
No kidding, but my God, that would be an amazing story.
And you could also cite about 20 years after that, the 6-Day War, Once again, country barely 20 years old, fighting 6 or 7 Arab countries at once, and winning in just 6 days.
Hmm.
That's why it's called the 6-Day War.
Makes sense.
No, because the
Yeah.
100-Year War is actually 116 years long. They just call it the 100-Year War because it's easier.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
16-year war doesn't quite have the same ring.
No.
Yes. Oh, too many syllables.
Alrighty, Ben. It's time.
Okay. Jumping a little bit, you, 50 said, I think it was 50, or was it you, who wanted to see the making of Star Wars.
50.
I want to see the build up and the making of the first Iron Man movie
Oh,
and the move of the MCU.
I wouldn't be surprised to say 10 years we get that.
yeah. I thought you were going a different direction. I thought you were going Back to the Future.
Me too. I was waiting for you to say Back to the Future.
Yeah, because that had a troubled production, production hell.
Yeah, and the best storytelling of it is on the movies that made us on Netflix.
Plug.
I know it's been done already. That's why I went with the first Iron Man movie. Because if that Iron Man movie doesn't work, we don't have the MCU today.
We are. I have a really good feeling we're going to get that story eventually.
Yeah, it's
And we might.
Honestly, probably on the movies that made us. If I'm being honest.
yeah. And
Who?
it's too good of a story that not to do it. I mean, they started filming without a finished script.
And that's when you get to the hill to meet Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
Honestly, you could just have Jon Favreau play himself, depending on when it's made.
Vince Vaughn. Just make it wild. Vince Vaughn plays Jon Favreau.
Oh, I like that. Took me a second. I like that connection.
Because they're friends and they made a movie together like 25, 30 years ago. That's an underground cult.
Peter, what is his name? Peter Billingsley, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, from Christmas Story. Yeah. No, okay, so this is my number one. This I want as another CBC. Oh no, sorry, I'm reading that wrong. I want this as a movie. I want this as a movie done in the style of The Revenant, The Grey, movies like that. It is the story of Albert Johnson, the Mad Trapper of Rat River. The event. So Albert Johnson was a fugitive whose actions stemming from a trapping dispute eventually sparked a huge manhunt in the Northwest Territories in Yukon and northern Canada. The event became a media circus as Johnson eluded the RCMP team sent to take him into custody, which ended after a 150-mile or 240-kilometer pursuit lasting more than a month in a shootout in which Johnson was fatally wounded on the Eagle River of Yukon. Albert Johnson is suspected to have been a pseudonym, and his true identity remains unknown. So basically, they chased him out throughout the Canadian wilderness. This guy had nothing on him, literally nothing. Didn't have winter clothing, didn't have adequate shoes, whatever, but he still managed to outrun them for a month and a half in the Canadian wilderness. And then it ended in an epic, no joke, this actually happened. It ended in an epic confrontation at an open plain, I believe, on a big thing of ice. And there was a gentleman in the plane who was conducting this for trying to find him from that way. That's who shot him down, and it got him right through the side and killed him.
Wow.
Yeah, and then 15 years ago, they actually did dig his body up to try to determine if they could figure out who he is, and they determined that he probably was from the Mid-South based on the way his teeth was and some of the stuff they found in him and stuff like that. But it is an incredibly fascinating story about what lengths men will go to evade the police, to run through and this at that time was territory that you couldn't go through. You shouldn't go through, but he did go through.
You know what? I think I have a title for you. Yukon Con.
Actually, yeah.
You like it?
I do.
I like it.
Yeah, because it's an episode of the Timon and Pumbaa show.
Of course.
Oh, God. And there it is. And there it is, 50.
You didn't see that coming.
But no, it's one of those I think would be a great as a Manhunt movie. Like I said, in the times the Fane of the Grey and the Revenant and stuff like that. I don't know. It's one of those stories that is just so bad, it's so fascinating and badass.
Yeah, but seriously, this time, good title could be just Manhunt.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need too much of an extravagant title.
No, I mean, if I could find a proper version of the documentary, I'd send it to you guys because it's a fascinating story.
Oh, hey, Andrew.
Yeah.
Someone else like my Tomorrow Bongo reference.
And just for giggles, I'm gonna scare you guys. This is the photo they took of him after he died to try to figure out who the hell he is. This photo circulated around Canada and the United States. That's what Albert Johnson looked like when he died.
Oh, God.
Skated, like unrecognizable. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yikes. Yikes.
All right.
Yeah.
I just want to see that picture show up at the end of the movie with the the comparison between the actor and the main character.
That would be
because in these movies the actor playing him looks nothing like the picture they show at the end.
Right. And this one you'd have to take some creative license because there is no known surviving picture of Albert Johnson alive. Confirmed picture.
So no one knew what he looked like.
Exactly. The only evidence we have of what he looks like is that emaciated death picture.
Yikes.
Yeah. All right. So enough of me bringing everyone down again. Ben, do you have the list for next week?
Yeah. To cheer everyone up, I thought of a great topic over the last week. This goes along with Matt's topic from last week, the top 5 movie posters. Top 5 first teasers of movies.
Right. We had talked about that. So basically the top 5 teaser trailers.
Yeah.
That could be an interesting one.
So basically, most of them are going to be from pre-2000, probably. From my end.
Maybe.
Well, it's just as we're getting, the more we're getting on in life, it just seems like the TV trailers are just becoming first trailers because of how long they are and stuff like that.
I can think of a few of that.
Have a separate discussion about what do we think qualifies as a teaser trailer as opposed to a full trailer.
It's basically the very first trailer that comes out for a movie.
That makes more sense, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. So, 50, where can everybody find you, my dude?
You can find me on my channel, which is The Geek, which has really not been active the past week and a half for technical difficulties on my end, but hopefully I can get my shit back together. You can also find me on this channel on Monday. You can also find me at work, apparently, with all these messages. But you can also find me on Monday on The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, where I talk about Doctor Who, something I haven't been doing at all today.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's come up in conversation. All right, Ben, what about you?
You guys can find me at my YouTube channel, Multiverse Kingdom, every Wednesday on Jedi Academy, every Friday on the Weekly Kingdom, every Sunday on Kingdom Uncut. You can also find me on this channel every Tuesday on Rewind the Tape, and every Saturday morning right here on the Northern Countdown. You guys can also find me at my Twitter, Ben_Rainier, and yeah.
All right, and 50, what about you?
I just did mine.
Sorry.
What the hell? I thought I was the guy being disoriented. Clearly, long weekends do not do you well.
No. It says for myself, you can find me on my personal Instagram and Twitter at soda_the_saxman. You can find me all over this channel and the shows that these two men mentioned, as well as the Squared Slice, which is our wrestling show that airs Wednesdays. And then normally Saturday afternoons, you can find me on the Let's Get Ready Network on the Dropkicks, their wrestling show over there. But we are doing it tomorrow instead because 1, Dagan's out of town, but 2, also tonight is the annual Money in the Bank pay-per-view, so that means tomorrow we can cover it. So, on behalf of myself and 50, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
I'm done.
And fuck on. Ben, you want to take this?
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and we'll see you next week. Have a